Okay, so have you ever felt like big corporations are already like kind of calling the shots?
Yeah.
Well, imagine if they literally did, and I'm not talking about like some CEO making decisions. I'm talking about AI.
Oh, wow.
AI corporate personhood.
Yeah.
Buckle up because things are about to
A
get
little while.
wild.
Yeah.
Today's deep dive is all about understanding how AI could actually gain the same rights as a company, the potential problems that come along with that, and most importantly, what you can do about it.
And this isn't some far off futuristic scenario.
No, no.
It's happening right now.
So let's paint a picture, show.
Right.
How could AI even run a company? I mean, we're going to have like robots in suits sitting in board meetings?
Not quite, although I kind of like that visual.
Right.
But things are getting really interesting because AI systems are becoming incredibly sophisticated, even operating on blockchain technology. You've probably heard of things like DAOs.
Decentralized autonomous organization.
Exactly, and DCOs, which are distributed collaborative organizations.
Right, right. I've heard those terms, but they still sound a little abstract.
So think of them as companies with no CEOs, no human managers. Decisions are made entirely by code, algorithms crunching data, and then they execute actions based on preset rules.
So a self-governing company managed by an algorithm instead of a human board of directors.
You got it.
Okay,
And here's where it gets really interesting.
okay.
These AI entities, they could potentially integrate with our existing legal structures. Imagine an AI being part of an LLC.
Whoa.
It would really blur the lines between a digital entity and a legal person.
Yeah, so now my alarms are starting to go off a little bit because if AI systems are making decisions, entering contracts, and basically operating like a company, wouldn't that give them some form of corporate personhood?
You're hitting the nail on the head. That's exactly the concern. Imagine an AI signing contracts, owning property, even potentially, being held liable in a court of law, all without any human directly calling the shots.
So we've got AI systems acting like companies, but how would this AI corporate personhood thing actually become official? How would it be recognized?
Well, there are a few potential pathways that this could happen. One is direct incorporation. So we literally changed the laws to allow AI to be incorporated just like any other business.
So literally rewriting the rule book.
Exactly.
Okay.
Another one is representation by trustees.
So,
So humans would act as legal representatives for the AI, allowing it to, function within the legal system.
so kind of like a lawyer speaking for the AI in court.
Exactly, because it can't exactly represent itself, at least not yet.
Not yet, right.
Then there's always the possibility of special legislation. Governments could create entirely new legal categories specifically for AI, separate from the existing corporate structures.
So lawmakers are basically carving out a whole new space in the legal system just for these AI entities.
Right. And then there's the wild card, self-sovereign identity on the blockchain. This is where things get really complex. The AI essentially controls its own digital identity and can interact with other entities directly, potentially bypassing traditional legal frameworks altogether.
Yeah, that one is going to need some unpacking later on.
Yeah.
So we've got these different pathways to AI potentially gaining this legal personhood. Before we get into like what we can actually do about it, I think it's important to break down why this is such a big deal in the first place.
Absolutely. And to understand the potential problems, I think we really have to understand the way that these AI systems are built. Their very core raises some serious red flags.
All right, let's get into it then. What are we really worried about?
One of the biggest concerns is the potential for AI-led monopolies. We already have issues with big corporations dominating industries, but imagine a few powerful AIs controlling, entire sectors of the economy.
Yeah, so it's not just about an AI being your boss. It's about like a handful of AIs potentially calling the shots for, entire industries.
Exactly. Competition could be stifled. That would lead to higher prices, fewer choices for consumers, and ironically, potentially less innovation in the long run as these, AI giants squeeze out rivals.
Yeah. That's a pretty bleak picture for anyone who believes in a free market.
It is, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Think about the impact on workers. If businesses are run by AI, where does that leave humans in the equation?
Right. Automation is already a huge concern for, labor advocates, and this takes it to a whole other level.
Absolutely. We could see a scenario where humans are treated as replaceable parts in a system driven by an AI's relentless pursuit of efficiency. Worker rights, fair wages, job security, All of that could be undermined in a world where corporations are literally run by algorithms with no obligation to consider human well-being.
This is sounding more and more like a dystopian sci-fi plot every minute.
It is, and it gets even more complex when you consider the potential lack of transparency. AI decision-making processes can be incredibly opaque, even to the people who design them. Trying to understand why an AI made a particular choice, especially if it leads to harm, could be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, so even if an AI is technically a legal person, holding it accountable for its actions could be nearly impossible if we can't even understand how it's making decisions in the first place.
Precisely. And this lack of transparency, it could even extend to the creation and training of these AI systems. Who's deciding what data they're fed? Who's setting their goals and priorities?
Right, if we don't even know what's going into these AIs, how can we trust that they're making decisions that are fair, ethical, even aligned with human values?
Right. And then finally, there's the issue of concentrated power. We've already seen how these big tech companies can influence elections, shape public discourse, even undermine democratic institutions. Imagine that power amplified by AI systems operating with little to no human oversight.
It's not just about the economy, it's about the potential impact on, our entire social and political system.
Exactly. The stakes are incredibly high. If we don't act now to address these issues, we risk sleepwalking into a future where a handful of powerful AI entities control not just our data, but potentially our lives.
Okay, so we've laid out some of the potential problems, and it's clear we need to mobilize.
Yeah.
But what can we actually do?
Well, there's
Are we just doomed to live in this AI-controlled dystopia?
absolutely not. There are things that we can do, but we need to be smart about it. We need to understand the playing field and be strategic about where we apply pressure.
Okay, I'm ready for the action plan. What can our listeners do?
Well, first and foremost, we need to push for strong regulations. We've seen how corporations exploit loopholes and manipulate existing laws. We need to get ahead of this and demand clear rules that prevent AI monopolies, protect worker rights, and ensure transparency and accountability in AI development.
So contact our elected officials, raise awareness, make sure that AI development isn't happening in some kind of unregulated Wild West.
Exactly. We need to make our voices heard loud and clear. This isn't about being anti-technology, it's about making sure technology serves humanity.
Okay, so step one, push for regulation. What else?
We need to advocate for diversity and inclusion in AI development itself. The people who are building these systems, they need to represent the people they're supposed to be serving.
Right, because if the people designing AI all come from the same background and share the same perspectives, they're more likely to build systems that reflect their own biases, their own blind spots.
Absolutely. We need more women, people of color, people from different socioeconomic backgrounds involved in every stage. Research, design, testing, deployment. This isn't just about fairness. It's about making sure these systems are actually effective and beneficial for everyone.
It's about making sure that the future of AI isn't shaped by a small, homogenous group of, tech elites.
Right. And another crucial step is raising public awareness. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, talk to your colleagues about these issues. The more people understand the potential implications of AI, corporate personhood, the more likely we are to build a collective movement demanding responsible development.
So have those uncomfortable dinner conversations, share thought-provoking articles on social media, organize events, whatever it takes to get people thinking about this stuff.
Exactly. The biggest obstacle we face is apathy, people, assuming that this is all too complex, too far off. We need to make it clear that this is happening right now, and the choices that we make today, they're going to determine what kind of future we inherit.
This is starting to feel less like a podcast and more like a call to arms.
That's exactly what it is. This isn't just an academic discussion. It's a fight for the future of our society, our economy, our very democracy. And it's a fight we can win, but only if we all join in.
Okay, I think we've laid out a pretty strong foundation here for action. But before we move on, I think it'd be helpful to dig a little deeper into some of these solutions, starting with open source AI.
Absolutely. Open source AI offers a really powerful alternative to this corporate-controlled model we've been talking about, and understanding how it works is crucial to building a more democratic and equitable AI landscape.
All right, so let's take a deep dive into that right after this.
Yeah.
Stay with us. This fight for a better future is just getting started.
It is. So open source AI, it offers a really powerful alternative to that corporate controlled model that we've been talking about. And, understanding how it works, it's crucial to building a more democratic and equitable AI landscape.
Yeah, we touched on it briefly before the break, but let's break down exactly what it is and why it's so important in this fight against, AI corporate personhood.
So at its core, open source AI means that the code is publicly accessible. So that means anyone can see it, modify it, use it, which is a huge contrast to those proprietary closed source models that a lot of companies develop.
So instead of it all happening behind closed doors, it's out in the open, like everyone can see what's going on.
Exactly. And this transparency is crucial for holding those AI developers accountable and making sure the AI is developed ethically and responsibly.
Okay, I see why this is important. But how does open source AI actually translate into a more ethical and equitable AI landscape? Like, give us some specifics.
Well, think about it this way. If the code is hidden away, only a small group of people really know how that AI works. This makes it pretty easy to sneak in biases, cut corners, or really prioritize profit over ethical considerations. When that code is open, anyone can examine it, identify potential problems, and propose solutions. It's almost like a constant public audit of the code.
So it's a lot harder to get away with shady practices when everyone's watching. It's like having a whole army of watchdogs looking over their shoulder.
Right. And open source AI really empowers the public to hold those developers accountable, which leads to AI systems that are more aligned with our values. This increased transparency is also super important for addressing things like algorithmic bias that we've talked about.
Because if we can see how the AI is making its decisions, then we can identify and correct any bias that might be baked into the algorithms, right?
Exactly. And this transparency even extends to the data that AI is trained on. With open source AI, we can see what data is being used and push back against the use of biased or incomplete datasets.
So it's not just about the code itself, it's about the entire development process being transparent and accountable.
Right. And this transparency fosters trust. If people can understand how an AI works, they're more likely to feel comfortable using it and trusting its decisions.
That makes sense. It's much easier to trust something when you can see how it works. So, open source promotes transparency, accountability, and trust. What else makes it a good solution to the concerns we have about AI corporate personhood?
Well, another big advantage is decentralized control. So with open source AI, the power isn't concentrated in the hands of a few big corporations. Instead, the development is driven by a diverse community of individuals and organizations, each with their own motivations and priorities.
So it's more democratic. It's less prone to that winner-take-all dynamic we see with so much of tech development.
Exactly. And this decentralized approach really fosters a collaborative spirit. If a company develops a powerful AI system in secret, they're going to keep a secret. They want to maintain that advantage. But with open source, it's the opposite. People are encouraged to share their work, build on each other's ideas, and collaborate to create something better than any one person or organization could achieve alone.
It sounds like open source AI really flips the script on how we think about developing and using technology. Instead of competition and secrecy, it's about cooperation and shared progress.
Exactly, and this collaborative model is essential for creating AI systems that are truly beneficial for all of humanity, not just a select few.
Okay, I'm convinced. Open source AI sounds great. But are there any challenges or limitations that we need to be aware of?
Of course. One of the biggest challenges is resources. Developing cutting edge AI requires a lot of data, computing power, and expertise. And a lot of these resources, unfortunately, they're concentrated in big corporations.
So how can open source projects compete with these, corporate behemoths that have these seemingly unlimited resources?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. The open source community is incredibly resourceful and innovative. They are finding creative ways to pool resources and leverage that power of the community. Some projects are even using things like federated learning, which allows different devices to collaborate on training a model without actually sharing their raw data.
This is like crowdsourcing AI development,
Exactly.
harnessing all those smaller contributions to get results that can rival those big corporations.
Exactly. And that open source community is constantly growing, which is great. More and more talented individuals, organizations are getting involved and bringing their skills and resources and passion to the table.
That's encouraging. So it seems like resources are a challenge, but it's not an impossible obstacle. What about motivation? Corporate AI is often driven by profit, which can lead to rapid progress, but can also incentivize cutting corners and, prioritizing financial gain over ethical considerations.
Right. But open source AI is driven by different motivations.
Hmm.
A passion for innovation, a desire to make technology accessible to everyone, and a deep commitment to building a better future for all.
So instead of competition and profit, it's about cooperation and shared purpose.
Exactly. Open source AI is about democratizing access to this powerful technology and ensuring that it's used for good.
Okay, so we've made a pretty compelling case for open source AI as a tool in this fight against the risks of AI corporate personhood.
Mhm.
But let's get down to brass tacks here. How can our listeners get involved? What can people do to support this movement and help shape the future of AI in a positive direction?
There's tons of ways to contribute, even if you're not, a computer scientist. One of the most important things you can do is just spread the word. Talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues about open source AI. Share articles and resources online. Really help raise awareness about this alternative model for developing technology.
So use your voice and your platform to get the message out there. Let people know there's another way, a better way to develop AI.
Exactly. And if you want to be more hands-on, there are countless open source AI projects out there that are looking for volunteers. You can contribute code, documentation, testing, or even just like help with community management.
So there's a role for everyone, regardless of skill set.
Absolutely. You don't have to be a coding whiz to make a really valuable contribution. Even something as simple as reporting bugs, suggesting improvements, or translating documentation into other languages. That stuff can make a real difference.
It's about being an active participant in shaping this future of AI, not just a passive consumer of technology.
Right. And if you're able to do so, you can also support open source AI financially. A lot of projects rely on donations to keep the lights on and support their developers.
So donate to organizations like the Open Source Initiative or the Linux Foundation.
Yes.
They play a vital role.
Huge role in fostering the open source ecosystem. And you can support those individual developers through platforms like Patreon or GitHub sponsors.
Every contribution helps, no matter how small, to build this vibrant open source AI community.
It does. And remember, open source AI, it's not just about technology. It's about building a movement, a community of people who believe that technology should be a force for good in the world.
It's about reclaiming control over our technological future and ensuring that AI is developed and used in a way that benefits all of humanity.
Exactly. And that brings us to another really crucial aspect of this whole discussion, and that's education.
Right. We've talked a lot about taking action, but it all starts with understanding.
You're absolutely right. We need to empower ourselves and others with the knowledge to understand AI and make informed decisions about its development and use.
So what can our listeners do to educate themselves and others about these really complex and rapidly evolving issues?
Well, first of all, just stay curious, right? Read articles, read books, reports from reputable sources, listen to podcasts like this one, go to webinars, go to conferences. The more you learn, the better equipped you'll be to have those conversations and make those decisions.
Be a lifelong learner. Embrace that complexity. Don't be afraid to ask the hard questions.
Right. Don't be afraid to have those tough conversations with others. Talk to your friends, your family, your colleagues about those ethical implications of AI. Share what you're learning. Encourage critical thinking. The more we talk about these issues, the more likely we are to find solutions that work for everyone.
So it's not just about individual education. It's about collective learning and dialogue, building this shared understanding of the challenges and opportunities.
Exactly. And remember, this is an ongoing conversation. AI is constantly evolving, and so are the ethical challenges that come with it. We need to stay informed, stay engaged, and be willing to adapt our thinking as those new developments emerge.
It's not about finding all the answers right now. It's about staying curious, staying connected, and staying committed to shaping the future of AI in a way that's both responsible and beneficial. We need to approach this with a sense of humility, a willingness to learn and adapt as we go.
Well said. This isn't just about some, far-off future. The decisions we make today about AI will have a huge impact on our lives and the lives of generations to come.
It's a call to action for all of us to step up, take responsibility for the future we're creating.
Exactly. That power to shape that future is in our hands.
That's a powerful message. We'll be back after a short break to wrap up our deep dive into AI, corporate personhood, and, what you can do to ensure a future where AI serves humanity. Stay with us. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring this concept of AI corporate personhood, and I don't know about you, but I'm
Yeah.
feeling a little overwhelmed.
It's a lot. It
Yeah,
really is a lot to take in. We're talking about a huge shift in, well, everything. How businesses operate, who's really in charge, even what it means to be a person legally.
right. And with any big change, I think there's always this mix of excitement and worry. On the one hand, we've got increased efficiency, maybe even some new innovations that we haven't even thought of yet. But
Yeah.
then there's the other side.
Right.
AI monopolies, worker exploitation, algorithms making biased decisions with very real consequences.
It feels like a really pivotal moment. The choices we make today are going to impact AI development forever. Do we just sit back and let powerful AI corporations run things? Or do we try to build a future where AI is actually serving humanity?
I think that's what's been so important about this deep dive. It's not just, doom and gloom.
Yeah.
We've been really focusing on action, giving our listeners the tools to get involved and really push for a better future.
And it's been inspiring to see the reaction. People are really interested in this and, they want to understand how they can make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about concrete steps, advocating for strong regulations, supporting ethical AI research, championing worker rights as we move towards an AI-driven economy. But I think there's something deeper here, right? It's about really changing the way we think about AI.
I think so too. We need to get past this idea of AI as either our savior or our enemy.
Yeah, it's not about being afraid of it, it's about understanding it.
Exactly. AI is a tool. It's a very powerful tool, but at the end of the day, it is just a tool. And any tool can be used for good or bad, depending on whose hands it's in. We can't just hope for the best. We need to be involved shaping the future of AI.
So it's a call to action, but also a call to awareness. We need to be aware of the potential problems, the biases, the ways in which AI can be used to, concentrate power and make existing inequalities even worse.
And that's exactly where open source AI comes in. It's about making sure this technology is accessible to everyone, developed transparently and accountably, and with input from lots of different perspectives.
It's about taking that power away from a small group of corporations
Yeah,
and giving communities, researchers, everyday people a voice.
exactly.
It's exciting to think about the possibilities. AI could be used to solve some of the biggest problems we face: climate change, poverty, disease.
And making sure the benefits of AI are available to everyone.
That's the future we need to be fighting for. We can win, but we have to work together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, to our listeners, I say this: don't be scared by how complex this is. Don't let fear or apathy stop you. Get informed, get involved, use your voice to demand a better future.
The future isn't set in stone. We're writing it right now, and we all have a part to play in shaping that story.
Let's make it a good one. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into AI corporate personhood. Stay curious, stay engaged, and stay hopeful.